Ahoy there! Ahoy!
What are you doing over there?
I've come ashore on your boat. This wonderfully constructed boat that I can claim absolutely no credit for. Hi, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining today, dude. I hope you had a good time riding along the boat over here.
Oh yeah, it's very comfy, very comfy. I tried to make my way below decks, but it turned out there was just a crafting table there, so I sat on that for a little while, and I was fine.
Yeah.
So
there's not a whole lot down there. Oh, actually, there is on that one. There is. There we go. You can go below deck down there. Do that little 1.14 trick. And
yeah,
we're good.
It just got real awkward there in a half block space for a second.
And let's get off the boat here.
Let's take a tour. So you've very generously invited me to give a tour of your world, and you said this was going to be a big milestone episode for you, right?
Yeah, definitely. So this is actually episode number 200 of my single player survival world, and we've been going. And actually, fun fact beyond that. This coming weekend, actually, when we're recording this now, so next weekend, so closer when the video is going out, it's actually the 2-year anniversary of this. Wow. They just kind of happened to land up perfectly along there as well. So, hitting 2 years of working in this world and 200 episodes, which is absolutely insane. A little bit of background for the world. Everything here started in 1.12. It's all vanilla survival with a slight bit of texture pack goodness on here to get stuff like our note blocks into being crates. And a few other just different texture variation stuff added throughout the area. But
I was playing around with the note blocks a little bit and like changing the crate texture by tuning the note block. It's super cool. And I can see like you've already got, I assume that's jungle wood that's modified to look a little bit green. There's a few kind of tweaked textures here and there, but have you adapted this for like 1.14 as well? So you're using like some of the new to some of the old kind of thing?
I'm in the process of doing that right now. Actually, this morning before we're recording, I updated a lot of the wood textures over. So I'm not using that quite yet, but trying to get that out of here soon. And updating like the plank textures to the new 1.14 ones, because I actually really like what Joppa did with those.
I was going to say that I can see the little like I'm breaking stuff. The little like wooden knots and stuff are still in some of these textures, like the old textures had. But
I added a bunch of variation to them. So there's actually like if you line up a lot of the planks, you'll see like a slight bit of variation going through on them, for which is like lighter or darker.
Yeah, there's a tiny amount of like variation in there. That's cool. Gives it a little bit more character, doesn't it? When you've got some subtle stuff going on there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, we can probably get off the docks here and go and explore up here a little bit further. Absolutely. And this area is something that I built probably a little over a year ago now. This was my first attempt at making a giant castle in survival. Here we are in like a little bit of a fishing town. Just kind of a small area because I felt like the castle needed to have something to set it into the environment. And up here we got a bunch of fields and some older like stone housings. And then this one here is Castle Bleak Rock. Probably one of my favorite things I've actually ever built in this entire world. It was super fun to make. Definitely challenging.
I can see why this became your favorite, because wow, man, like I want to fly up and explore around the entire thing, but first, like just taking a look at it from the ground, it's got such a great sense of scale and perspective and like fitting the size of the player, which is so difficult with these things. They always end up being like way bigger than you expect them to be sometimes, and you're like, this is just gonna look way out of proportion, but this is perfect looking to me.
Yeah, I always get so annoyed when I see those builds where people do those massive, like huge, like they'll go like 150 blocks tall making a castle and the gate's like 30, 40 blocks tall to walk through it. I'm like, yeah, those look cool. You can get a bunch of detail in there, but I feel like for the scale of a Minecraft player, it just doesn't really work that well.
Yeah, it's got to feel like you can ride through the main gate on a horse, and like that's about it, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is kind of the main general courtyard area, and here using a lot of anvils and things just as decoration bits because, you know, previously iron was okay to get. And just I tried adding in a bunch of life into this area. I didn't really do many of the interiors. I think this back here is actually one of the only ones that's actually finished in the castle. Kind of really bad about those. See also my castle as well. My castle is just like that. I've done about half of the interiors, if that. So yeah. Yeah, I do always say like, yeah, I'm gonna plan on coming back to finish these up, and then I'm just like, yeah, when am I gonna have time to do that one? I just find interiors are so difficult to do in like a video or something like that, and they take a good chunk of time. So I'm always like, it would be really fun to do, but like, the amount of time commitment for like the little bit of content to get out of it was like, I don't know about that one. Actually, this one back here. I actually did this one. This is a big old feast hall. The door's going to close in your face.
Yeah, I'm like, I've broken the door in half. What the heck? Okay,
there's a pressure plate in there. But yeah, so I tried to do the big old feast hall idea in here, make it really fit to like a player scale. I was back then watching a bunch of like, I think it was Game of Thrones probably, and I just loved the idea of like all those feast halls where they're so tightly packed, people freaking everywhere in there. You could barely like squeeze in between people from like the different clips they'd show of like the entire area. So I really tried making something very, very tight and compact in here. And then you have kind of like the Lord's table up here, got some nice chandeliers, and then there's some areas up here if they want to have like some musicians or guards or something overlooking the area. So
got to have a balcony in these places. It's for security, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so this one was super fun. Then there's one more area in this castle kind of coming up to the top. Sorry, the doors are a little difficult for multiple people. This area in here is supposed to be a kitchen, never got finished. And then we kind of have a back balcony area looking out over the canal area that was man dug out. Like I cleared out this whole area myself, still working on it. I do want to widen it up a bit more and move this mountain or this cliff face over here back a bit further to let some larger boats get through. But this whole area here, which we'll be seeing later, is actually the only water entrance from that main large ocean into this inland sea area, which is kind of where I've built everything else surrounding it. So that's kind of why this castle popped up in this area, is because it was here to defend that channel, the only waterway to get in and kind of protect everything. So that's why this castle is a little bit out in the middle of nowhere compared to everything else inside of the world, but not crazy far out. It's eventually hopefully going to be fully finished up and ready to go here with like everything interconnected. We got some roads connecting up everything, getting pretty close to the rest of the world here in a distorted village that kind of broke and didn't generate too well. And then
I like the fact this one house is just a wall, and then you've got a farm on the opposite side. That's
we got
kind of cute.
We got a wall with a door over here too.
It's great. Like
okay, I'm going to my house now.
and one bookshelf in case you want something to read in there. I love stuff like this though. I feel like Minecraft just has that weird quirky side that people don't appreciate enough. And I like the idea of keeping stuff like this around almost as like a memento to how wacky Minecraft can be sometimes. And then you're just like, I'll just build a road through this so I can come by and laugh at the people who still live here somehow at this point.
Yeah, I guess we got some love hearts going on over here too, so the villagers might want to leave them be for a bit. I think they need to repopulate the village.
Yeah, I need to turn my particles back on so I can see this. Or maybe I don't want to see it, I don't know. But...
Yeah, I don't know about that one. But yeah, they got a little roadway over here, which I don't know how this generated. That definitely was a road last time I walked through here, so maybe the chunk reset. All right, well, that's a little concerning. Yeah. Coming through this way, though, this is, always called it my Robin Hood village. I don't really have another name for it. I guess the villagers have made their way into this village. Hi, guys.
Probably
did not know you were
here.
Yeah,
at this point.
Pathfinding different beds. But yeah, this one I tried making something hidden in a dark oak forest where you can't really see it from up above, but like when you're down here, it's very, very like trying to you're very immersed in the environment. You can really tell that you're in this village, and it has a really cool feeling to it. Tried making it look like they have like a bit of a festival going on with all the banners and everything hanging on around here. And this was something, this was a long time ago. We just randomly built this up on like a stream project over a weekend or something. It was really fun to do. So there's a few little town projects like these dotted all around the place. Yeah, that's kind of not really a whole lot of interior area in there. But from this one we can head up. Though. Yeah,
it's super nice, and you've got this big custom tree in the center of it that's kind of like shielding most of it, and that feels like it's doing most of the work of like hiding this place from above. But then, yeah, you can just catch little sections of the house here and there that shows there's something here, but you have to go in further to experience the whole thing. It's very nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to build the world off of a player walking on the ground, still with like it looking okay from above when you're flying via Elytra, for example. Just because everybody's going to be traveling around on Elytras, everybody's going to be flying around up above now that we have those features, so it's like might as well build for the case of that one. But moving away from this one into something that's probably my most ambitious project that's still very much a work in progress is I'm trying to create a giant port city, something that's going to fill up a extremely large amount of area. And right now I've probably spent this whole area here previously was a dark oak forest, for example. And then coming into this area right here, you can see a giant canal that I've dug out to get a waterway throughout the entire city so that we can have water transporting from a river over there. Then I'm also working on bringing a canal area coming out to the large ocean area as well. So this is like the ocean that was outside of Castle Bleakrock over on the other side. And then I want to have a way for smaller like barges and little city boats to be able to quickly transport goods from there to the like inner harbor, for example, or just different areas for that, just to help with transportation instead of having to go all the way around. And then over here is where I've been currently working on everything over the last, I think, 50 episodes or so, and coming in here and tweaking up a bunch of these things. This thing is going to be completely terraformed. Like the whole ground level down here is eventually going to turn into a giant sewers area, so it's very much open. And shulker box storage down there right now. There's not a whole lot else.
There's all of the player infrastructure kind of. Yeah. I need to have somewhere to put all of my stuff while I work on this.
Let's just put it all underground. Yeah, so this one is called Port Latour. And I think it's like Port by the Sea or something like that. I don't really remember. But yeah, so I really am trying to go for like a medieval, almost Victorian style of housing structures along the front here. And just trying to get like this whole really cool water harbor side vibe area with like a giant roadway for carts and things to speed up and down, moving all over which way. And you will see a few armor stands around here of just player heads. I tried originally, my goal was with like patron supporters and things like that, was I was going to add an armor stand with their character head on it doing something throughout the city. And then after I got about 50 or so in here, everything started lagging like crazy. So I was like, well, I got to find a new plan for that one. So there's a bunch of people who are like the original supporters who are dotted around here, which I think is like a cool addition to the city, so I don't feel quite so lonely when I'm playing single player in here.
Yeah, I mean, the alternative is villagers, and they're just gonna, like, they wreck the place, villagers. Like, you don't want them. They'll tear up the furniture.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
They get a little ravenous and start biting on the edge of the couches.
A little bit, yeah.
So we got like a fish market right here, which is pretty cool. I also have that Hermitcraft armor stands data pack, so if you see a few little things standing around here,
a few items kind of tucked into the odd places like that, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, and so this one, not a whole lot of these areas have interiors quite yet on them. This one was supposed to be like a warehouse storage that was originally supposed to be where I stored everything, and then it's way too small and there's way too many crates in here, so it's like, nope, we're going back underground.
That's always the problem with these things. As soon as you start making them look like aesthetically pleasing, it's also like, well, I'm removing all of the space that I intended to use for storage in the first place just to make it look nice.
Yeah, exactly. And then this one over here is supposed to be like the guard house, like harbor guards and things like that. This actually does have an interior on it. Forgot about that one. So this is whole like guard shack and everything like that. We got a bit of a dungeon area down below, so you got the prisoner quarters and everything like that if you need to hold some villagers here overnight or something, so you know they can sleep in their little cell. And I'm trying to think, yeah, that's pretty much it for what's on the there's some beds and things up on that second floor. That's just kind of a classic little bedroom thing that you can see through the windows. And then over up this way is this is really what I'm trying to do with this area, is the scale of how this street moves up. Like, I feel like most people when they're building a Minecraft go like very flat, kind of like what we have down in here, very manicured, and I want to make something very, very naturally going up at a pretty natural gate, so like a cart could easily go up it, but it's still Minecrafty of just like working your way up into the distance, because I really want to avoid having that super flat city. So a lot of areas are kind of tucked in off to the sides with like raised platforms where there might be some tables and chairs and things to eat around, different houses at different levels, and everything's kind of growing. So as you move away from the harbor, you can still see the city. It's not just going to be like a flat skyline. It's very much going to be growing over and over as kind of like you're going. It's basically going to be a big hill in the end. So on the far side, it'll start coming back down and all that good stuff. And this is kind of where...
when you get like a little focused city street like this, you put like a landmark at the end of it that like it kind of focuses your eye towards something big that might be in the distance. Or like right now, it's like you're standing at the top of this and you're looking down basically straight at the sea, which is totally like, I live in a coastal town. Like that's exactly what happens. All of the roads go down towards like the seafront basically. So it just makes perfect sense to have it set up this way.
Yeah, like you're saying, that big focal point. My plan is right here to create like a very manicured, like flattened out area with, I was either thinking like a giant bank or like a Big Ben style clock tower or something at the end of it. Just because I wanted to avoid doing like the classic, what everybody does is every giant port city or giant city that you build has a cathedral and a castle. I wanted to avoid that and go with something more like a economic focused thing, I guess you could say.
That's kind of what the castle in my town has turned out to be. It's like, at first I was like, this is going to be like the king of the area and everything. But then the whole town is so focused on industry and that kind of stuff that I'm like, yeah, maybe this castle is used more for like administrative stuff. And instead of a throne room, it has like a whole hall full of people with like inspection tables, and they're bringing goods in and kind of figuring out what the value of everything is as it goes. And yeah, you can adapt stuff that way, and as long as you've got a story in mind for it, you can come up with some way more creative stuff than just, you know, what you see in the standard Minecraft world.
Yeah, no, definitely. And moving actually a little bit more into the story side of things, is this castle that we're coming up over here, totally blanking on the name of it. Oh, the Arcanum. There we go. That's the name of it. Too many names to remember.
This is the one you mentioned when you came on the podcast and talked to me and Joel about it. You said this was more focused on like wizardly stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah. So this is actually the big magical castle, and I tried seeing that with like all the blues and purples and actually using some purple in there and everything, and trying to make this like actually something where a big wizarding community used to live. This was like the first step into bringing fantasy into this world, besides the Minecraft mobs and everything like that. And this is like the main section of the city that's like actually fully finished. So like this area wandering through here is what my end goal for it is all gonna be. And so kind of like the lore of this area is the wizards were previously outcasted from the entire city, and they finally were allowed back in. And I'm thinking about doing like an exploded part of like an old town area where the wizards, like that's where they used to live in their like an older university, and something went wrong and it all blew up.
Kind of like that house on the road when we were coming through.
Exactly. There you go. That guy's really bad at making potions.
Yeah, he just keeps moving on to like the next big project, and kaboom. This is a perfect example of what I was saying though. Like you just get little glimpses of that big edifice over there through the gaps in the houses in this street, and the perspective there is just something that I feel like everybody should aspire to if they're a builder, because like you just get little hints of the building as you come through, and it just gets bigger and bigger as you get closer to it, and then you get to see more and more of it the closer you get. That's such a cool vibe.
Yeah, that's what I love playing with sightlines. Sightlines is like one of my favorite things to mess with, and I'm seeing a 1.14 lighting bug over there, so that's super fun.
Of course.
But yeah, so even behind all of these little areas, behind everything, we have the big old castle that like is where probably the player would first walk towards. But one thing I love doing in these areas is actually like filling in every tiny little corner here. So even using like stairs to create a super small well here with like a flower pot as a cup to get water out of it. Even like little simple stuff like that. Then we have a small garden area back here to, sorry, excuse me, where they're growing like some wheat that they're maybe using for some sort of potions. Maybe it's not wheat or something like this, or they're using it like this area here is supposed to be like a tavern inn of sorts, of where like students who are trying to get into the university are like maybe living in here while they're waiting for their admission to be processed to see if they actually make the cut. So that was kind of the idea of this one. So it's like a inn area right next to the castle. And then this castle is, I personally like the other one that we were looking at. There we go. Gotta update that. I personally like Bleak Rock a lot more, but I love the amount of fantasy and just like life in this area. Even for example, using end crystals as a decorative bit. Definitely don't touch
that's
them.
So scary to me. Every time I see those out in the world and they've not got like obsidian around them constantly, I'm like, man, this it's inviting a world of hurt, a world of skeleton hurt.
Yeah,
just
luckily
like one stray arrow.
They are one block far enough away from each other where they won't blow each other up.
Right, yeah. So you're losing one but not the other, maybe, yeah.
This one, right next to this house here, as soon as I finished that house and that roof there, I was just messing around up there, like doing something, tabbed out, and forgot to pause. And a skeleton shot me, and instead of hitting me, they hit that, and I had to rebuild the entire roof. So.
Yeah, I'm like, I saw it, and I'm like, that's happened at least once, probably. Like, if nothing else, I feel like adding the pillagers into this update is probably asking for even more of that to happen. So yeah, I'll cross my fingers for you that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so coming into the castle area, this area is very much not completely finished up. I've mostly done this central courtyard area in here, trying to get this ancient tree of sorts that's been growing out of here. I've been trying to figure out ways that I can make this more unique, and I've been really playing with recently mixing different leaf types together to create like a new type of tree. So like this is birch and spruce in there, but then using like acacia as the base to give it more of an ancient feeling to it.
Yeah, looks good. It's kind of like fossilized, but still kind of growing. But that mix and match kind of technique with the leaves is super good because it lends so much variety to something that can otherwise look kind of fairly static and like if it's all one leaf type, then you lose that sense of it being an organic thing. It just looks kind of flat. So yeah, I always picture it's like you have like that shape of the trunk, and then you just kind of drop a towel over the top of it. That's just like one color. It's like, oh. Okay, well, yeah,
it's
like, it just looks like it's just wearing a hat at a certain point.
Yeah, so none of the interiors down these different wings are completed yet, but the idea is that this one down that way is going to be like a feast hall area behind the door, and then in here is going to be like the grand masters area of where all like the master head wizards meet and everything in there. So I was going to do like 5 big thrones because the goal was that if we actually fly up here through the top, like through this area, is there's 4 different towers or 4 different wings. So I figured there'd be 4 different types of magic schools being studied here, like fire, water, like nature of sorts, and maybe like an arcane type magic. And then I wanted to have a 5th one for like the head, like the top dog guy who would kind of oversees the entire school. So there's the 4 different towers here. I tried to make them all unique in their own right, but it's very much built around this like central point with that tree and everything where they're all kind of coming back connected into that area. And this is probably the most expensive balcony I have ever created, with anvils stretching across the entire thing.
This is definitely a reason to build an iron farm, this.
Yeah, no, I was really glad I did this before 1.14. And then the last part that I was kind of checking out for this castle here is if we come back over to this backside, this is like a garden area, for example. I want to do like a greenhouse back here. Then I was like, no, let's just do an open air garden. And then and my end crystal's gone. There was an end crystal right here. That's
another example of those vanishing entities that we're seeing in this update, apparently.
Love it. And then so this we actually finished up about the time that Stan Lee had passed away. So I decided to dedicate this one to him for all the amazing work that he'd done in just kind of like the movie and entertainment industry in general. So decided to do that, and this one actually looks way cooler with the end crystal in there, so kind of bumped out. But yeah.
So I have to say it looks pretty awesome on its own. So I think the end crystal is probably the icing on the cake. The cake itself is pretty awesome.
I'll take it. Take it. And then down here, there's a bit of terraforming done for this entire area because it did stretch out a bit farther than the landscape. So I tried bringing in a bit more of that fantasy decorative bit because I wanted something where the castle didn't really look like it could have been supported by this land here. So maybe somehow the wizards were able to strengthen the rock or something like that so it could actually stretch all the way up into the sky to support this massive structure. And my plan was to come back in here and make actually some tunnels. Like I started this one out that would actually lead into like a basement area of the castle for like training rooms or things like that, so they could like slide some boats in here and unload people and then get the boat out throughout the darkness of the cave area if like the city was still not super supporting of people practicing magic or something like that. Because the idea has kind of always been like the common folk were like very much like against the magicians and everything like that. So tried to make it where there'd be some hidden entrances into that area, but still got to come in and finish those ones up. And then I think the most challenging thing I've done in this entire area is this boat right here.
Building angled boats is so tough, and you've managed to make this one look effortless. So that's so cool. But yeah, like it's hard. I've done a couple of. I did like a one chunk tutorial that was a boat on a diagonal, but it was a perfect
the old
like,
pirate ship,
degree.
right?
Yeah, and that was like a perfect 45-degree angle, so it wasn't that tough generally speaking, but like. Yeah, like on a shallower angle like this, it becomes infinitely harder.
Oh my gosh,
and this is looking awesome.
I think this boat here, to get where it's at right now, I think it's probably one of the longest videos ever for me to make as far as recording time. I think it was about 11 hours to get everything here working. And now I'm looking at it, I was like, ooh, I want to tweak this, I want to tweak this, but I was just like, no, it's at a point where I can call this done for today. And then in here, this is more area where it's just city life and just bringing things in the city. So this is envisioned as being like a small dry dock area where they'd be making rowboats, so like super small boats that they could make here, use this lift to pick them up and drop them down into the water over here, and then attach the rowboat to whatever larger boat that they needed. I want to add a bunch of dry dock areas for them making like giant boats, and I'm underwater. But I figured I would start here, fill in this area with some small workshop, something like that, because I wanted to get something added in here and I couldn't really figure out what. So I was like, let's just get started on that one. And then
super cool. And yeah, I love all of the kind of dockside machinery kind of stuff. Like that's something I've tried doing bits and pieces of, and I really want this kind of iron texture to be in vanilla Minecraft somehow. And like the smithing table has one texture that's getting close to that, but that's the kind of stuff that I really want to see happen in vanilla default textures in general.
Yeah,
that sort of industrial grimy iron instead of the super clean stuff you see everywhere else.
Yeah, definitely, because they have that like clearer iron that the iron golems have and everything like that, but then you look at the anvil, you look at the cauldron, and you look at like everything except the tools pretty much are that darker color. So I was like, why did they keep the actual block as the lighter color too? So I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna create a dark iron texture and call it good from there. And then one thing I love doing is stark contrasts in these worlds. So we have this crazy industrial area right there building some boats, and if you literally just walk directly back into here, you go into a small park area. So it's just right across the street really as that dividing point, and then coming back into here having some custom trees and everything like that. Just very lush area where somebody's hanging out here eating a cookie, enjoying their lunch. And we got a
very nice and such a, again, like varieties of trees creeping in here, so it's not all just like a monoculture of everything is an oak tree or a spruce tree. It's nice. It's got a really chill vibe to it. It definitely feels like lived in as well. It feels like the kind of thing that people are just living their lives here and hanging out, and they have little places to come like this when they don't need to do all of the work.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I love, like I feel like not many people do this, so I like pointing it out, is just small like workstation cabinets. Like in here in the park, there's probably a groundskeeper or something. And then instead of the whole park being perfect, over in the corner, he's got his little workstation where he could store his tools, everything that he's using maybe to like mend the area, some buckets for like digging, shovels and all that good stuff. And I just like adding in those small, tiny little areas to it. But so now we are actually entering into the area of White Glen. This is a super, super ancient area inside of my world. And this whole gatehouse and everything that we've been walking through there is actually like, I think it's well over a year old. I do want to retweak it and fix it. And then I kind of built these structures in here, that cart, and then this little inn here just to add something to the city entrance as I was kind of working on the city entrance a bit more. And basically this whole area, I think it's personally viewed best from up above, as you kind of take a glimpse at all of the different farmland and everything going on throughout here. I've tried adding in basically every single type of crop that I could think of, or every type of thing that could be used as a crop of sorts. So we have carrots, we got potatoes, we got wheat, we got sunflowers, we got lilacs being as a sort of like a lavender plant, and then we got some vineyard areas with dark oak leaves kind of being that vineyard like kind of grape block, for example. And then even recently I've dotted in a few like beehives and things like that over in this area just to kind of get a bit more color and variety into here. As we
and you get all of the flowers around them and stuff. That's super cool.
And raining. All right. And let's see if I can remember this one. There we go. Is it going away? Maybe. Yes.
Yep, looks like it.
All right, and then moving out over towards this way, this is actually something that I just got bored and built up after finishing episode 199. I was like, I want to add one more thing as a little bit of a extra bit for the episode 200 world tour. So I built this whole little campsite here, trying to incorporate as many of the new blocks as I possibly could. Of like traders are coming through the area, fixing up tools for the farmers, and selling a bunch of goods and things. And I don't know about you and how much you use paintings, but I find that most of the Minecraft ones are really like not useful. So I've been trying to recreate all of them as different things. So like we got a little bit of a potion rack right here, for example.
Nice,
and just different things like that I feel like are more applicable to like a medieval world. instead of all of the paintings with like a creeper face on it or something. I feel like
yeah, most of the time if I'm using paintings, it's to like hide something from the opposite side. Like paintings are good for secret entrances and stuff like that, but there's like when there's one painting, like there's the 1x2, the taller one, and there's only 2 different variations on that. I could use like 5 or 6 more of those to put some variety into the world.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Definitely. I've been slowly working through the list of ones I want to redo. And then this area here is actually very, very recent. This one was very recently finished up. Just more farmland fields and everything. And then we're kind of skirting around the edge of it. But this whole project up here that you can see all of the cliff face over there to the, what are we looking at? The east. And then you'll see a big mountain and everything popping up behind there, which we'll be getting to soon. But I think I've told you about this one before. This is a custom biome project that I'm working on and trying to create completely in survival here. And it's been absolutely insane to work on. Currently, we're over 200,000 dirt and 200,000 stone placed for that project. Not just mine, completely placed down. So we're getting through a lot of it, and it's been super fun. And this area is another thing that I was saying, like playing with sight lines earlier, is you kind of walk through here and you see the mountains start popping up through this like broken archway here. And then you see the glimpse of the mountain, and then you have to dive back down into the forest. And so it's like, okay, well, let's look at everything here in the forest. And then as we're working throughout and moving around, you can actually get to see the mountain again, which is kind of the main goal. Is I want people to be able to get like glimpses of it as you're walking up to it. So you're like, oh my gosh, I need to go explore over there. I need to go check out what the heck that giant thing is. And so it's just kind of
super crazy. I love the fact that you've got different rock strata in there. Like you've got different types of materials, making it look like way more than just a big stone cliffside. You've got little bushy patches of grass in there and snow and everything mixed in. It gives it so much more dynamism and character than just building the entire thing out of stone and cobblestone.
Once we get to the other side, it'll be a little bit better for along that side. This from kind of where you see that last more dark gray strip, everything over to the left I've just kind of worked on the structure of and not really finished. Because I wanted to get into building this small area that we're in right here, which is actually a quarry. I wanted to create an area inside the world where I could have a forever mining project. So I could come back later on, like way later on, and basically be like, all right, this is everything that we have torn out of the earth here to try and mine. And so, of course, I spent probably about 10,000 or so stone and andesite and everything in this area building up something so that we could have a designated area to go mining at. And we can actually quickly jump down here. That if you stand right down in that lower area where that cobblestone is, and then we should fall all the way down.
He does redstone as well. The man does everything.
Yep, definitely made that one up myself. But the idea is down here to come into this area and just mine everything out. And where I've been starting so far is I actually want to start with a higher ceiling instead of just doing that like 5 block wide down at the base. So my plan is to basically come up here, clear everything out at this level, and then go down and clear everything out below it again, just to kind of have that really grand, giant area. And recently I've been working on creating a sort of a underground ancient dwarven city, which we can check out after we finish up the...
As soon as you said like high ceiling in there, I was like, okay, we're going dwarf city now. We're going like, you know, they're down here doing all of the mining, crunching all of those rocks and making themselves like the biggest palace underground. Yeah,
so luckily we have a quick way to get up actually out of that one.
Bubble column's still the best part of 113.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that thing has been the godsend. And then it puts you out at the top of the quarry and you can just grab an elytra and fly away from out of here, which I thought was kind of a cool way of doing it. And now, as I'm sure a lot of people have been being like, oh my gosh, can we just see the mountains already? We can fly around and take a look at that one. This one's probably best to be... Oh, I am... Oh,
yeah, rubber banding just a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, this place is not filled in, so it's very dark down below. So a lot of lighting updates happen as things are loading in and out. The end goal is to have this forested area that we're kind of seeing down here with that pattern actually spread across the entire grassy area that you're seeing. You can kind of see the multiple patches of it that I've built up so far and kind of different areas that have been in the works, but I've just been slowly adding to it throughout working on this entire project because I didn't really want to sit here just in one stint and build everything out everywhere. And I felt like it was a lot more natural to kind of come back every once in a while and be like, all right, the next like this week of episodes, we're going to be working on the custom terrain, like getting a little bit more progress done on it and all that. But up here is the mountain range. What you're seeing on that left-hand side is what the end finish goal is going to be for everything here. I'm hoping. We'll see if we can get that much concrete and cyan terracotta to be able to put everything over here. But
that's the struggle is real with the concrete, and I love the fact that you've got a plane flying over it. That's so good. It's so perfect for that like little dip in the range of mountains you've got going there. You just have this plane flying over.
Yeah, I want to do like a Christmas special this past year. I was like, I don't know what to do, and I don't want to build a sleigh. So it's like, you know what? The dwarves are now Santa. We're not the elves are not helping Santa. They've upgraded the sleigh. It's an airplane that delivers presents. So there's a little tiny dwarven Christmas village up here, completely covered in the snow and everything. And this is kind of where they make all the presents for everybody. I thought it was kind of a cool touch starting the fantasy side.
That is freaking adorable. I love it.
The end goal for this mountain range was actually to be the point that divides the realistic side of the world from the fantasy side of the world. So the plan is that we'll have this mountain range eventually finished up completely on there, and then it'll drop down to the other side. And I'm rubber banding like crazy. Apparently the server does not like the mountain range. But yes, then the other side...
Welcome to 1.14 as well. I'm like...
Yeah, 1.14 on a server.
Couple of tweaks.
So the end goal is dropping down on the other side. That's where it's going to start, like, elven builds and just, like, other types of fantasy life and things like that. And maybe some golems and the dwarves, like, their big entrance to the dwarven area is actually going to be within the mountains. I'm thinking, like, there'll be the main pathway, and then there'll be a small broken down pathway kind of off to one side of the pass, and then that'll drop down into a valley area, and then that giant like dwarven city entrance gate like what we see in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or those types of places where it's just that massive front gate, and then from behind there a giant city. And then this one right here actually is supposed to be a Nordic city eventually. I wanted to build this up to get it started here so I knew where the city was going to be starting. But before I really start building on it too much, I wanted to finish the mountains going around it. So that's something I think I'm going to be pushing for here pretty soon, because I really want to go and mess around with the Nordic style, because I really liked what we started with here.
It's basically all of it is cool to look at, because this is all custom terrain. It's all custom trees. The builds, like this one, just kind of integrate so nicely. We got a grass roof over here. So like, you almost can't see that from the top. It's like it blends into the landscape with the grass, but then you're like, oh no, this is like a little farming area, and they've got all the nature kind of surrounding them the whole time. It's super nice. Yeah,
this is kind of my starting goal for what the Nordic builds were going to look like, because I just really wanted to start messing around with it. So I was like, all right, screw it. We're just going to designate this little area to be a small farming community outside of the city gates, outside of the city walls, where we're going to just work on it and figure out what things are going to be looking like. And I want to start introducing a bit of the snow, so it's not like you get to the mountains and instantly out of nowhere there's snow. So I want to like ease it in slowly throughout this entire area, which has been a bit harder to figure out how to do it well than I thought it would be, but it's been a fun challenge.
This is the kind of stuff as well that you see people building in creative, and it always kind of looks fascinating, and I'm like, no, somebody did that with like a brush and tools, and they had like World Painter, and they could, you know, sculpt everything that way. But this all being done basically by hand in survival is still a monumental effort, and it's just looking, even the parts where like you can tell you haven't quite finished like the grass kind of over there, and it's still sloping out to nothing. It still just looks epic in scale. Even when, you know, sections of it, you can see in the sections of it that are done, you can imagine where the rest of it is going to go. And it's just looking amazing, man.
Yeah. And then down here, actually, to give you a little bit of a glimpse, if I can figure out, yes, there we go. This has been, I've thought about turning this whole under area. This is just kind of cool to look at, into an industrial like farming area. Because I figure I have this giant area out here that one actually looks pretty cool to see from underneath. It's just kind of a crazy thought about that this is all like there's a ceiling above you. And this whole area is cleared out. And then my first attempt at it was building a carrot and potato farm, and completely messed it up because it does not work with the 1.14 mechanics. So
yeah, well,
got to rebuild that one.
A lot of villager-based stuff is just completely broken in this update anyway. So what you gonna do?
Now we got 2 more one village and one city to check out, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There is an end. There is an end in sight.
Might have to make this a two-parter.
Yeah. All right, so this area here is White Glen. It was a original Minecraft village that I decided to completely transform because I found a mending villager, and I was like, you know what, that's perfect. Let's just get it all good to go in there. And so this whole area, you'll see some villagers running around. I need to come back in here and add some workstations so they can actually do some things. And I just wanted to like really create a cool environment inside of Minecraft where the old villager mechanics could still apply, and they could breed and get everything they needed to and completely survive and be safe and all that stuff. One thing that I really don't like doing in Minecraft is overly lighting areas. I think adding like dark spots in areas, even though it causes creepers to spawn and explosions and things, I think it makes them look a heck of a lot better. So this is the only area where I kind of fell through with that, and so we have a bunch of torches and things hidden under carpet and whatnot throughout this whole area just to help protect it a bit further.
I was going to say, if you want to work with villagers, you basically got to light everything up because one zombie can ruin the whole thing. Oh yeah,
completely. And then we got a cool village up here that I'm really happy with, or not village, church. And this is probably one of my favorite church designs that I've been able to come up with and use in the past. And I'm getting very framey here. And I really just like this one. It wasn't originally a Minecraft villager church in this area, but we didn't have one in this village, so I was like, all right, we need to add one in here. And I wanted this to feel very ancient and very old and kind of here before the village came here, or maybe like an older group of people before the current villagers and current architecture came in here and worked on this area. So I wanted to feel very old and more grand and something more about what the city would look like for their big grand structures. And this one, I had a lot of fun with this one, and we actually missed the whole world map over there. But you can see a glimpse of what the world looks like in here. So there's
nice.
I've been trying to create a giant map of everything and doing the small map frames and capturing all of this. Currently, it's a 12 by 12 map, and it's still growing.
Yeah. All these ambitions, but like this place reminds me, at least from the outside, of something from Skyrim. Like you're saying, it feels kind of like it's got that spiky sort of gothic style to it, with all the flying buttresses and everything. It kind of and it being on basically the top of the hill as far as this town is concerned. It just feels like such a natural place for it to be. Everyone kind of climbing the hill to go and visit the church. It just makes a lot of sense.
And leaving this village area, this is the roadway that that same roadway that we've been following throughout this whole thing is actually still connected to this one. And over in here we have a very old windmill that I created and a vineyard. I really love the idea of adding vineyards into the world because I think they make crop fields look so much more interesting, just breaking it up instead of everything being kind of that one tall stuff. And so we have a massive vineyard in this area with a small own lake area and kind of overlooking the castle and everything like that. So it has a lot of cool views and just different elements to it. And those small trees over in the back right area, they're actually supposed to be like little apple trees. So a small apple orchard. Maybe they produce some ciders along with the wines that they create and make it, everything like that. So I tried creating this one. I had a lot of fun creating like the super highly detailed vineyard area, this crazy massive scale compared to like the other field areas and everything we have going throughout here. And coming there you are. All right, and then this last roadway here is finally we're gonna get into the desert to the original city that we have, and we're making it in just under an hour.
It's been great. It's been so cool looking around so much of this stuff, and there's inspiration popping out of every corner of this world so far. And I think one of the cool things about going back to what you were saying about sightlines and like not being able to see the mountains in the distance and stuff like that is that if you're walking around as a player just kind of wandering through these pathways, it's like having loading zones in a game where they kind of force your perspective into certain angles so that you can't see the fact that it's loading a bunch of the game in the background. And I feel like that's a perfect way to work around the fact that Java Minecraft has such a limited render distance. Like if something's not going to be loading in the background, then like obscure the player's view from it, and then once they get as far as that, you can kind of start to have the stuff pop up once it's actually rendered for the players. It just makes so much sense.
Oh yeah, no, trees are great for Java server world loading. But even stuff like this, where I didn't know if you were seeing that little tiny pathway that really is not really a pathway at all. But I tried creating an environment for players where they could basically just wander up these small things. There's a lot of them actually off the side of the pathways. I figured we'd come up this one just because you're kind of talking about that sight lines and everything. And there's an ancient old coal mine up here is the idea behind it. That it was a small old coal mine where they tried mining everything out and then it actually flooded in the back. So they kind of had to stop the project and everything. And the idea was basically to take something that is like literally right up here on the edge. You can almost see it from right down here on that street on the road. You can actually, like, if you probably jump up, you could see the top of the logs barely poking through the trees. And the idea is that, like, you never really know that's there unless you see that small path block off to the side. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to go wander down there. Where does this thing lead to? And I tried adding, I'm still working on adding a bunch more things like that throughout the world. And just kind of adding a lot more of that interest to it. So there's just that explorability element to keep people wandering and keep people moving around here and kind of enjoying the experience. Like you're saying, the loading zones. And I always like the games that instead of saying like loading ... and that's it, but they have like an image or something that's like moving around, or maybe it's like in World of Warcraft how they do it with you, like you're flying on a mount or something like that throughout most of the area. Like occasionally you do hit a loading screen, but they add different elements into it. Where like this one, I'm trying to remember where this thing is. Oh, up here. Like this one, like you can keep just wandering and there's forever like more stuff to explore. Like we have a small ancient shrine here that probably means nothing, but it could have been like an old ancient religion or something like that. Similar to those giant archways that you were building over in your world back over in the mountains and everything like that, where it's just like something cool to look at that really doesn't mean anything. And it just kind of leaves there for people to question it.
It becomes like an Easter egg kind of thing, and people can make up their own lore about why it's there. It's just kind of like, it's just a casual off the beaten track kind of thing. Like you'd find in a game like Breath of the Wild, where they've gone into so much thought about like the little details and little houses, all of which have their own stories, but none of it is really explained. And it's so cool just seeing stuff like that tucked away in a otherwise unassuming wooded area. It's great.
Yeah. All right, we did it. We made it to the desert.
Hey, we're here.
And coming up over the Silway, we're actually going to be seeing the first city ever created in this world of Papyrus, my desert city. The original idea was to make cities based around one type of resource and one type of good in the game, and then I realized that was going to be too crazy. So Papyrus here is based off of sugarcane and paper and all of that good stuff involved with it. So like books and everything, and they're supposed to be like the librarians of the world. So I'm gonna come back in here and make like a giant ancient library area. And before we jump into the city itself, just to make one quick stop, this is something that I built way long ago. This is actually my old iron farm. Here is, I wanted to create like a desert gladiator style arena in here. And I figured all of the iron golems could just be, you know, fighting it out in the arena, and then we get the spoils of that as lovely good iron drops. And doesn't work anymore, but
sad times. But it's still such a great build to have there. And I think if you can disguise an iron farm or like one of these older designs as something like this, then you're always going to have something that's worth keeping in your world, when otherwise you would just tear a regular iron farm down. So it's super great that you've found another purpose for it, another kind of landmark in your world that can be put there, instead of having to be like, oh, that's just a big square box that I now have to tear down because it's no longer functional.
Yeah, I'm thinking about clearing out that middle area and like turning it actually into like a gladiator arena now. And I have like a few like redstone dots dotted around and be like, okay, well, here's like, this was previously used, like showing that like a battle did happen in there or something like that. I feel like that could be a kind of cool connection back to all of it. And over in here, this is again inside of the desert city. Down here, it's like a more finished up area, more recent area that we came back in and added everything into. This is supposed to be like a small farmland area for it. Tried making some vertical windmills up there, something very Age of Empires 2 inspired. And
heck yes, I love a vertical windmill. That's so good. It's such a different thing than what you would expect from when somebody says windmill. You just immediately think like those kind of fan horizontal blades to it, and it's so in keeping with the style of this area. I think that's really inventive.
Yeah, I was thinking, like you're saying, like the giant fan blades. I was like, if I add that in here, it's gonna look so out of place. Even if I figure out a way to do it with sandstone and everything, that's just not gonna work. So, and then we got our little boulevard of palm trees right down here leading us around the pathway through all the farmland and everything. And I can't wait for if we eventually ever get that desert update that they're talking about for the biome updates. I can't wait to actually have those real palm trees.
If we get them, like, I'm so scared that they're gonna say like it's a palm tree, and then it's just gonna be a different configuration of a wood we already have. That's like I'm hedging my bets when it comes to that stuff. I'm like, acacia trees, probably just 2x2 acacia trees to make a baobab. I don't know, like, we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, you've done a great job of these, because a jungle wood is always going to be the best candidate for that kind of stuff. But it looks fantastic, and yeah, like just the simple touches like having fences and having cocoa bean pods on there just make it feel a lot more alive.
Yeah, I like breaking them up as much as I can, so I don't have like a tutorial that I follow every single time I try and make a tree. I'm just like, all right, this is the general idea how I make them. Let's see what we can do this time. And just hopefully it works out. And in here is a giant market area that I think is way, like, this is 175 episodes old. So this one I always love wandering through here, because I made this back when I was, I think, below 400 subscribers on YouTube. And I asked people in the comments, so I was like, all right, everybody, this world is going to be around for a very, very long time. Give me an idea of what you think we should name a shop. And every single person that commented, if they gave me an idea or something like that I could use, it was something that I put their name on here. So for like the true like OG subscribers, like they have most of these stalls are named after different people, which is just kind of cool to come back here and have that kind of touch of reality and be like, wow, it's it's come a very, very far way since then. So it's cool to just wander through here and see everybody's names and everything on the different stands and everything. So
that's great. It's a great way to, like, honor people who were there from the very beginning and keep that sense of history in the world too.
It's crazy because some of them, like, I still see the names and they're commenting, and I'm like, you've been watching me play Minecraft for 2 years. Like, what are you doing with your life? But thank you. And then this area down here is just turned into my bulk storage room. I figured I needed an endless amount of chests, so there's just 2 layers of it, different things stored on every single different layer. And most of it's empty because I've learned that I like to keep things in shulker boxes and take them around with me everywhere instead. So
I love the fact that you've got so much of it organized by color up here. This is like a true builder's storage right here. It's not even just the materials necessarily. It's like, this is all the red stuff goes here, and it's got this beautiful spectrum of color around the room. It's super nice.
Yeah, ignore the fact that I forgot cyan and was too lazy to move it all over there.
Yeah, just like it goes with the gray. I mean, the cyan stuff is gray. It can go on the end if it wants to. It's fine.
Yeah, I had this end goal. I was like, you know what, we're gonna fill up a double chest of every type of resource in the game. Like, I'm gonna do that, and then I was just like, I'm not gonna do that.
yeah. Like, I'm too busy using them in places. That's the problem. Like,
yeah, I don't want to.
You can be a collector, or you can do stuff like this, which is clearly like 100 times better in my estimation.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I could go get a double chest of pink concrete, but am I ever going to use pink concrete for an entire double chest worth?
That's a challenge for episode 300. By episode 300, I want an entire double chest of pink concrete to have been used in a build somewhere.
All right. I'll make it happen. We get into the fantasy area and done.
Yeah, do that.
All right, this area here is actually like a giant good old throne room area, and we got a good old creeper chilling over here. Definitely thought this whole area was mob proof.
He's chill. He's fine.
He's a friendly dude. The reason why you're hearing mob sounds like crazy, though, probably, is right below us is actually my mob farm. So
yeah, I was thinking there's got to be a dark room underneath this somewhere.
Yeah, so I wanted to originally hide my mob farm somewhere, and I couldn't build it completely underground because of the elevation that the desert was at here. So I decided to just basically build the palace on top of it, so all the mob drops and everything are down in that vicinity down there. And nice. It's just, there's not a whole lot to look at down there. It's just some chests. And then another glimpse of that same world map that we are looking at previously, just from a slightly different angle, including the city down here. So you can kind of see where everything is connected and all of that good stuff. And then what I really, really love is that up at the top of this, I tried making a shrine back when we killed the Ender Dragon way, way, way back when I started out this world. And just kind of threw the dragon up here, so whenever ruler lives over the city, he kind of comes and communes with the gods, so like the dragon egg here or something like that. And I tried making like a super simple shrine design, and it actually worked out pretty well. I really like the end rod in here. being that kind of floating source to hold it up.
Yeah, yeah, that's super cool. Kind of a reminder of the end as well. And yeah, it's neat. It feels almost like Stargate style to me in this like Egyptian sort of sandstone environment. It kind of feels like there's something slightly alien going on up here as well, which is real cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually a good idea. I'll have to remember that one. And then the rest of the city is kind of just stretching out over to this area. A bunch of stuff that's been added way long ago. These things are all 175 plus episodes old at this point, with the original starting house being this guy over here at the end of the street. I figured the road needs to finish off and come all the way down over here. So I don't know if I lost you somewhere or not.
I'm flying in the air. I was okay. Just admiring the fact that two bunnies were like going for a boat trip on the river. It's just like two of them had hopped in there and they're like, you know, this is our boat now. They're like, it's wind in the willows. They're having a picnic. Yeah,
that was... Sorry if there's a cruise ship honking in the background there. That whole living at the seaside city.
Yeah.
But yeah, that originally one bunny got in this boat. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm still going to use that boat. That's my boat. That's how I get around everywhere around here, because we got all the waterways and everything. And so we're going to be using that one. And then I like went back in one night to go sleep and came back and there was a second bunny in the boat. I was like, all right, you guys win. That's your boat now. Made a new one and have been using that thing ever since. But yeah, this house over here is actually the original OG house for this entire world, which is super cool, that kind of having everything start from this and just sprawl along this road that just basically, it has that point where it ends right now, but the goal is to have it a never-ending road where it just kind of keeps going, and there's always more things to check out. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I know we've been
thank you.
Going for a super long time now.
It's been immense. It's been really cool to look around all of this stuff. Like I said, there's just inspiration around every corner. I'm going away with about 50 ideas for what I want to build based on some of this stuff, and yeah, it's great, and long may it continue. Congrats on 200 episodes. That's such an achievement to be working in the same world for 2 years. Like that's dedication that has clearly paid dividends. You're a master of your craft already, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, dude. All right, everybody who has been watching, be sure to hit the like video. Go check out Pixlriffs' channel, Spawn Chunks, all that good stuff. That anywhere else that folks can find you at.
Just youtube.com/Pixlriffs, and yeah, anywhere else that the name Pixlriffs can be searched, you will find me at the other end.
That sounds good. Perfect. Everybody, be sure to go check him out. Thank you so much for joining me today, dude. And everybody, we will catch you on the flip side.
Bye for now.